She'll never find love. Not with that face. Not with that personality. Those whispered words from my own mother would haunt me for years, until the night my fiancé bought an entire restaurant just to create the perfect proposal moment. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, when I believed those cruel words were my unchangeable destiny, instead of the fuel that would ignite the most extraordinary love story I never thought possible. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Isabella Martinez, and for 27 years, I had accepted my mother's assessment as absolute truth. Standing at barely 5 feet 2 inches with what I considered unremarkable features, thick-rimmed glasses that seemed to dominate my face, and a naturally quiet demeanor that made me practically invisible in social situations, I had resigned myself to a life of romantic disappointment and emotional solitude. The environment that shaped my self-perception was the modest 2-bedroom apartment in East Hartford, Connecticut, where I had lived with my mother, Carmen Martinez, since my father abandoned us when I was 12 years old. The cramped space, with its faded floral wallpaper and furniture that had seen better decades, served as a constant reminder of our financial limitations and, according to my mother, my equally limited romantic prospects. Carmen Martinez was a woman whose own romantic disappointments had crystallized into a bitter worldview that she imposed upon me with relentless consistency. After my father left for a younger woman he met at his construction job, my mother had transformed from a hopeful romantic into a cynical realist who viewed love as a luxury reserved for women with beauty, wealth, or exceptional charm. According to her frequent assessments, I possessed none of these qualities. The daily routine in our household revolved around my mother's work schedule at the local grocery store and her evening ritual of analyzing why various women in our neighborhood succeeded or failed in their romantic relationships. These analyses always concluded with pointed observations about my own limitations and the realistic expectations I should maintain regarding my romantic future. "Look at Maria from downstairs," my mother would say during our dinner conversations. "She keeps herself up, knows how to talk to men, has that confidence that attracts attention. That's what it takes, Isabella. And you need to understand what you have to work with." These conversations invariably ended with detailed explanations of why I should focus on practical considerations, like stable employment and financial security, rather than entertaining unrealistic romantic expectations. My mother's influence extended beyond casual commentary into active discouragement of any romantic interests I occasionally developed. During high school, when I expressed interest in attending the junior prom with a classmate who had asked me, my mother spent an hour explaining why accepting would only lead to disappointment and embarrassment. She convinced me that the invitation was likely motivated by pity rather than genuine interest, and I ultimately declined, spending that evening at home while my classmates celebrated. The pattern continued through my college years at Central Connecticut State University, where I studied accounting with a practical focus on securing stable employment rather than pursuing personal fulfillment or romantic relationships. My mother regularly reminded me that my education represented our family's path to financial stability, not an opportunity for social exploration or romantic development. During college, I maintained a rigorous study schedule that left little time for social activities or relationship building. This dedication to academic achievement served the dual purpose of ensuring my professional future while reinforcing my mother's narrative that intellectual pursuits were more realistic for someone with my limitations than romantic aspirations. I graduated with honors and immediately secured a position with a respected accounting firm in downtown Hartford. My professional environment at Sterling & Associates reflected the same pattern of invisibility that characterized my personal life. The office, located in a modern building overlooking the Connecticut River, housed 43 employees across 4 floors, and I occupied a corner cubicle on the 2nd floor, where I processed corporate tax returns and financial statements, with methodical precision and minimal interaction with colleagues. The accounting work suited my naturally detail-oriented personality and provided the financial stability my mother had emphasized as my primary objective. However, the professional environment also reinforced my sense of social invisibility, as office gatherings, informal networking opportunities, and collaborative projects typically excluded me either by oversight or my own preemptive withdrawal from potentially uncomfortable social situations. My colleagues at Sterling & Associates were pleasant but distant, treating me with professional courtesy while maintaining clear boundaries between work relationships and personal connections. During office birthday celebrations, holiday parties, or after-work social events, I would typically find polite excuses to avoid participation, convinced that my presence would create awkward situations for everyone involved. The daily routine that had developed over my 5 years with the firm involved arriving early, completing my assigned work with exceptional accuracy and efficiency, eating lunch alone at my desk while reading financial journals, and departing promptly at 5:30 to return home to my mother's continued commentary about our neighbors, romantic successes and failures. Weekends followed an equally predictable pattern that reinforced my isolated lifestyle and limited social development. Saturday mornings were dedicated to household maintenance and grocery shopping with my mother, during which she would provide running commentary about various couples we encountered, and her assessments of why their relationships succeeded or failed, based on the women's appearances, behaviors, and apparent social advantages. Saturday evenings typically involved watching romantic movies on television, during which my mother would point out the unrealistic expectations these films created for women like me. "See how she looks," she would say about the female protagonists. "See how she talks, how she carries herself, how men respond to her." That's not real life for most people, Isabella. That's entertainment, designed to make people dissatisfied with reality. Sundays were reserved for extended family gatherings at my Aunt Rosa's house, where I would observe my cousins, romantic relationships, and listen to detailed discussions about wedding plans, relationship challenges, and family dynamics that always seemed to exclude any consideration of my own romantic possibilities. These gatherings served as weekly reminders of my outsider status regarding love and relationships. The psychological impact of this environment had created what I now recognize as a comprehensive belief system about my romantic limitations that affected every aspect of my self-perception and behavior. I had internalized the conviction that romantic love was reserved for women with qualities I would never possess, and this belief influenced everything from my clothing choices to my communication patterns to my fundamental approach to social interaction. My wardrobe consisted entirely of conservative business attire in neutral colors that were designed to blend into professional environments rather than attract attention or express personality. My hair was consistently pulled back into a practical ponytail that required minimal maintenance and eliminated any risk of appearing too styled or attention-seeking. My makeup routine, when I bothered with cosmetics at all, focused on appearing neat and professional rather than attractive or feminine. The most devastating aspect of my situation was not the external limitations or social challenges, but the complete absence of hope that circumstances could ever change. My mother's consistent messaging had convinced me that romantic transformation was impossible for someone with my fundamental disadvantages, and this hopelessness had become the foundation of my identity and my approach to life. At 27, I had never experienced a romantic relationship that lasted longer than 3 awkward dates. My few attempts at online dating had resulted in brief conversations that faded into polite disinterest or uncomfortable meetings that confirmed my mother's predictions about my romantic limitations. Each disappointing experience reinforced the narrative that love was simply not available to someone like me. The breaking point that would eventually lead to my transformation occurred on a gray February evening, when I overheard a conversation between my mother and my Aunt Rosa that crystallized everything I had feared about my romantic prospects. I had returned home early from work due to a migraine and was resting in my bedroom when I heard their voices in the living room discussing my cousin Elena's recent engagement. "Elena has always been the pretty one," my mother was saying. "She knows how to present herself, how to make men feel important, how to be the kind of woman men want to marry. Isabella is a good girl, responsible and hardworking, but she's never understood what it takes to attract a man's interest." Quote, "Maybe she'll surprise you," my Aunt Rosa replied diplomatically. "Sometimes the quiet ones find love when you least expect it." My mother's response would echo in my mind for months afterward. "Rosa, we need to be realistic. Isabella is 27 years old, and she's never had a serious relationship. She doesn't know how to talk to men. She doesn't present herself in an appealing way. And she's always been more comfortable with numbers than with people. She'll never find love. Not with that face, not with that personality. It's better that she focuses on her career and financial security. At least she can take care of herself. Those words, spoken with matter-of-fact certainty by the person who was supposed to believe in me most, crystallized my deepest fears about my romantic inadequacy and my predetermined destiny of loneliness. As I lay in my bedroom listening to my mother's assessment, I felt something inside me break and then, surprisingly, begin to rebuild itself with a different foundation. For the first time in my adult life, I found myself questioning whether my mother's perspective represented absolute truth, or simply her own limited experience and disappointment projected onto my possibilities. The possibility that her assessment might be incomplete or incorrect created a small space for hope that I had never allowed myself to experience. That night marked the beginning of a transformation that would prove my mother's predictions spectacularly wrong, leading to a love story that exceeded my most optimistic dreams, and culminated in a proposal so extraordinary that it would become legendary among everyone who heard the story. But the journey from that moment of despair to unprecedented romantic triumph would require me to challenge every assumption I had accepted about love, relationships, and my own potential for happiness. The woman who lay in that bedroom believing she was destined for loneliness had no idea that within 18 months, she would be engaged to a man so devoted that he would purchase an entire restaurant to create the perfect moment to propose, proving that love often arrives in ways that transcend our most limited imagination and transform our understanding of what is possible when we finally believe we deserve extraordinary happiness. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The morning after overhearing my mother's devastating assessment, I arrived at Sterling & Associates with a strange mixture of despair and defiance coursing through my veins. The familiar routine of settling into my corner cubicle, organizing my tax documents, and beginning my methodical review of corporate financial statements felt different somehow, as though I was performing these actions while simultaneously observing myself from a distance. The accounting firm occupied the 15th floor of Hartford's Commerce Center, and my workstation provided a clear view of the bustling street below, where people hurried between appointments, meetings, and social engagements that comprised lives far more dynamic than my own predictable existence. For the first time in years, I found myself studying these pedestrians not with resigned acceptance of my outsider status, but with curious speculation about the relationships, adventures, and possibilities that filled their daily experiences. Martha Henderson, the senior partner who supervised my department, approached my desk around 10:30 with an unusual request that would prove to be the catalyst for everything that followed. Martha was a formidable woman in her late 50s who had built her reputation through meticulous attention to detail and an unwavering commitment to client satisfaction. She rarely engaged in personal conversation with junior staff members, making her approach particularly noteworthy. "Isabella," she said, settling into the chair beside my desk with an expression that combined professional purpose with maternal concern. "I have received a request from Castellano Industries that requires someone with your particular expertise in restaurant accounting and tax compliance. They need comprehensive financial analysis for an acquisition they are considering, and the timeline is quite aggressive." Castellano Industries represented one of our firm's most prestigious clients, a family-owned restaurant empire that had grown from a single neighborhood establishment to a network of upscale dining venues throughout New England. The company was known for its sophisticated approach to hospitality, its commitment to exceptional culinary experiences, and its strategic expansion into markets that other restaurant groups had not successfully penetrated. The project would require you to spend considerable time at their corporate headquarters reviewing their acquisition targets' financial records, Martha continued. More importantly, you would be working directly with their executive team to provide strategic insights about the financial implications of this potential purchase. This represents a significant opportunity for professional development and client relationship building. The assignment Martha was offering represented a dramatic departure from my routine responsibilities and comfort zone. Rather than processing tax returns in the security of my familiar cubicle, I would be required to interact extensively with high-level executives, provide strategic recommendations that could influence major business decisions, and demonstrate analytical capabilities in high-pressure situations where my conclusions would have substantial financial consequences. My immediate instinct was to decline the assignment, citing my comfort with current responsibilities and my concern about taking on challenges that might exceed my capabilities. The familiar voice of self-doubt, reinforced by years of my mother's messaging about my limitations, urged me to recommend a more experienced colleague who would be better suited for such an important client engagement. However, something about Martha's presentation of this opportunity, combined with my previous evening's revelations about the potential inaccuracy of limiting beliefs, created a moment of internal conflict that felt different from my usual automatic avoidance of challenging situations. For the first time in my professional career, I found myself considering the possibility that declining opportunities might be more dangerous than accepting them. "I understand this represents a significant challenge," Martha said, apparently recognizing my internal struggle. "However, I am specifically recommending you for this assignment because your analytical capabilities and attention to detail are precisely what Castellano Industries needs for this evaluation. Your work on the Morrison Restaurant Group audit last year demonstrated exactly the kind of comprehensive thinking that complex acquisitions require." Martha's reference to the Morrison audit provided an unexpected perspective on capabilities I had not fully recognized or appreciated. The Morrison project had required me to analyze complex financial relationships between multiple restaurant entities, identify potential areas of operational inefficiency, and develop recommendations for improving profitability across diverse market segments. I had approached the project as a routine assignment, but Martha's assessment suggested that my work had demonstrated strategic thinking abilities that extended beyond basic accounting functions. The Castellano project would involve approximately 6 weeks of intensive collaboration with their executive team, Martha continued. You would be analyzing the financial performance of Trattoria Bellacorte, a high-end Italian restaurant in downtown Hartford that they are considering purchasing. The analysis would require you to evaluate everything from food cost management to customer retention patterns to operational efficiency metrics. The mention of Trattoria Bellacorte created an immediate emotional response that surprised me with its intensity. I had walked past this restaurant countless times during my lunch breaks, admiring its elegant exterior and imagining the sophisticated dining experiences that occurred within its warm, inviting interior. The restaurant represented everything that seemed beyond my reach: romance, sophistication, social connection, and the kind of lifestyle that people with more dynamic personalities than mine enjoyed. The irony of being assigned to analyze the financial performance of a restaurant that symbolized everything I believed was inaccessible to someone like me was not lost on me. However, rather than reinforcing my sense of exclusion, this coincidence created a strange sense of possibility that I could not immediately explain or rationalize. "I should mention," Martha added with a slight smile, "that the Castellano family has specifically requested someone who can provide fresh perspectives on their acquisition strategy. They believe that working with someone who approaches their business from a different background and perspective might reveal insights that industry insiders might overlook." This final detail about the client's preference for outside perspectives resonated with something deep in my consciousness that I had never previously acknowledged. Throughout my career, I had viewed my outsider status as a professional limitation that prevented me from contributing meaningfully to sophisticated business discussions. The possibility that my different background might actually represent an advantage challenged fundamental assumptions about the value of my analytical approach and professional perspective. The moment of decision arrived with Martha's direct question: "Are you interested in taking on this challenge, Isabella? I believe it could represent a significant step forward in your professional development, but I need someone who is committed to approaching this project with confidence and strategic thinking." The word confidence hung in the air between us like a challenge to everything I had accepted about my capabilities and potential. My mother's voice echoed in my mind with familiar warnings about overreaching beyond my limitations and setting myself up for disappointment and failure. However, a newer voice, one that had emerged from my previous evening's revelations, whispered that declining this opportunity might represent a far greater failure than attempting it and falling short of perfect success. "I accept the assignment," I heard myself saying, with a firmness in my voice that surprised both Martha and myself. "When do I begin?" Martha's expression shifted to one of satisfaction and approval. "Excellent. You will begin Monday morning at Castellano Industries, corporate headquarters. I have arranged for you to meet with their Chief Financial Officer, Anthony Castellano, who will brief you on the acquisition parameters and introduce you to the other executives you will be working with throughout this project. The remainder of that Friday passed in a blur of preparation and anticipation that felt unlike anything I had experienced in my professional career. Rather than approaching the weekend with my usual sense of routine predictability, I found myself researching Castellano Industries' history, studying the restaurant industry's financial dynamics, and preparing for interactions with executives whose expertise and experience far exceeded my own. That evening, I made a decision that would prove to be as significant as accepting the assignment itself. Instead of immediately sharing news of this opportunity with my mother, I chose to process this development privately and begin preparing for the challenge without subjecting myself to her inevitable concerns about overreaching beyond my capabilities. The weekend provided time for reflection and preparation that revealed aspects of my professional identity I had not previously recognized or developed. As I researched the restaurant industry and studied Castellano Industries' business model, I discovered that my systematic approach to financial analysis and my natural attention to operational details were directly relevant to the sophisticated challenges that restaurant acquisitions presented. The restaurant business I learned required complex integration of financial management, operational efficiency, customer experience design, and market positioning strategies that created multifaceted analytical challenges. Rather than feeling intimidated by this complexity, I found myself energized by the intellectual stimulation and the opportunity to apply my analytical capabilities to problems that extended far beyond routine tax preparation. Sunday evening brought a conversation with my mother that tested my newfound resolve and commitment to pursuing professional growth despite familiar resistance. When I explained that I would be working on a special project for several weeks, potentially including some evening hours and weekend preparation time, her response was immediate and predictable. "Isabella, you need to be careful about taking on responsibilities that are beyond your experience level," she said, with the concerned tone that had accompanied her advice throughout my adult life. "These corporate executives are sophisticated people who expect certain levels of social skills and professional presentation that you have not had opportunities to develop. You do not want to embarrass yourself or damage your reputation by overcommitting to situations you are not prepared for." However, rather than automatically accepting this assessment and modifying my approach accordingly, I found myself responding with a perspective that surprised both of us. "I understand your concerns, but I believe this opportunity represents exactly the kind of professional challenge that will help me develop the capabilities I need to advance my career. Martha Henderson specifically recommended me for this assignment because of work I have already completed successfully." The conversation that followed revealed the extent to which my mother's protective instincts had evolved into systematic discouragement of growth opportunities that might involve risk, challenge, or the possibility of failure. Her perspective was rooted in genuine concern for my well-being, but it had created an environment where avoiding potential disappointment had become more important than pursuing potential achievement. As I prepared for sleep that Sunday evening, I recognized that accepting the Castellano Industries assignment represented more than professional development. This opportunity would require me to challenge fundamental beliefs about my capabilities, interact with people who operated at levels of sophistication I had never experienced, and demonstrate analytical thinking in situations where my conclusions would have substantial real-world consequences. The woman who had overheard her mother's devastating assessment just 4 days earlier was about to embark on a professional adventure that would introduce her to a world of possibilities she had never imagined. More significantly, this assignment would place her in direct contact with people whose lives embodied the confidence, success, and relationship fulfillment that she had been taught to view as permanently beyond her reach. Monday morning would mark the beginning of a transformation that would challenge everything I believed about love, success, and my own potential for extraordinary happiness. The call to adventure had arrived in the form of a professional opportunity, but it would ultimately lead to discoveries about romance, self-worth, and the possibility that my mother's predictions about my romantic future might be as inaccurate as her assumptions about my professional limitations. The journey toward the most extraordinary love story of my life was about to begin, disguised as a routine business assignment that would prove to be anything but routine. Monday morning brought the convergence of anticipation and apprehension as I prepared to enter the sophisticated corporate environment of Castellano Industries for the first time. The transformation from my familiar Sterling & Associates cubicle to the executive headquarters of one of Hartford's most successful restaurant empires represented more than a change of location. This transition would introduce me to professional standards, analytical expectations, and collaborative relationships that would fundamentally alter my understanding of business strategy and my own capabilities. The Castellano Industries headquarters occupied the 22nd through 24th floors of Hartford's Commerce Center, with executive offices designed to reflect the sophisticated hospitality standards that characterize their restaurant properties. The reception area featured warm mahogany furnishings, original artwork from local artists, and an atmosphere of professional elegance that immediately signaled the elevated expectations and refined business culture I would be entering. Maria Santos, Anthony Castellano's executive assistant, greeted me with professional warmth that provided reassurance while maintaining the formal protocols appropriate to executive-level business interactions. Her guidance through the corporate offices revealed an organizational environment where attention to detail, strategic thinking, and collaborative excellence were clearly embedded in daily operations and professional relationships. The conference room where my initial briefing would take place reflected the sophisticated decision-making processes that had built Castellano Industries into a regional restaurant empire. The polished presentation technology, carefully arranged meeting materials, and panoramic views of downtown Hartford created an environment designed for high-level strategic discussions and complex business analysis. Anthony Castellano entered the conference room at precisely 9 o'clock, accompanied by Linda Morrison, Director of Operations, whose presence indicated the collaborative nature of the project and the integration of multiple functional perspectives that sophisticated business analysis required. The introduction provided my first indication that this assignment would demand far more comprehensive thinking than traditional accounting analysis typically involved. Anthony's initial presentation of the assignment parameters revealed analytical complexity that extended far beyond financial evaluation to encompass market research, competitive analysis, operational assessment, and strategic planning that would influence multi-million-dollar acquisition decisions. Rather than feeling overwhelmed by this expanded scope, I experienced energizing recognition that this project would provide opportunities to apply capabilities I had never fully developed or demonstrated in professional contexts. The briefing materials that Anthony provided contained comprehensive background information about restaurant industry dynamics, acquisition evaluation methodologies, and strategic frameworks that successful hospitality companies employed when expanding their operational footprints. The sophistication of these materials indicated the level of analytical thinking and strategic planning that would be required throughout the project. Isabella, we have specifically requested your involvement because Martha Henderson's recommendation emphasized your systematic analytical approach and attention to operational details that complex acquisitions require, Anthony explained with professional appreciation. This project will demand integration of financial analysis with strategic insights that can guide our acquisition decision-making process. The acknowledgement that my analytical capabilities had been specifically recognized and requested by sophisticated business leaders provided validation that challenged fundamental assumptions about my professional limitations and potential contributions to strategic business initiatives. Rather than viewing myself as a routine service provider, I began to understand that my systematic thinking and analytical expertise represented valuable resources for complex business challenges. The introduction to Linda Morrison revealed additional dimensions of collaborative work that would expand my professional experience beyond individual analysis to include team-based strategic thinking and integrated problem-solving approaches. Linda's extensive restaurant management experience would provide operational insights that would need to be synthesized with financial analysis to create comprehensive acquisition recommendations. The restaurant business presents unique analytical challenges because success depends on integration of financial performance with operational excellence, customer satisfaction, and market positioning factors. Linda explained with the authority that comes from extensive industry experience. Your financial expertise will be essential, but the most valuable analysis will connect financial data with operational realities and strategic opportunities. This perspective on analytical integration provided the first indication that my role would extend beyond traditional accounting functions to include strategic thinking that could influence major business decisions. Rather than simply reporting financial data, I would be expected to develop insights that could guide acquisition strategy and operational improvement initiatives. The morning briefing concluded with comprehensive overview of Trattoria Bellecourt, the Italian restaurant whose potential acquisition I would be evaluating over the following weeks. The restaurant's established reputation, prime downtown location, and loyal customer base created acquisition appeal, but the analysis would need to determine whether current financial performance accurately reflected future potential under different ownership and management approaches. The drive to Trattoria Bellecourt for my initial site visit provided opportunity to process the significantly expanded professional responsibilities I had accepted, and begin mentally preparing for analytical work that would demand capabilities I had never previously applied to real-world business challenges. Rather than experiencing anxiety about these elevated expectations, I found myself energized by the prospect of contributing meaningfully to sophisticated strategic decisions. Trattoria Bellecourt occupied a historic building on Hartford's Main Street, with elegant exterior architecture and inviting interior design that immediately communicated the sophisticated dining experience that had attracted loyal clientele for over 15 years. The restaurant's atmosphere reflected authentic Italian hospitality traditions while maintaining contemporary design elements that appealed to Hartford's professional and social communities. Giuseppe Bellecourt, the restaurant's owner and executive chef, proved to be a gracious host whose passion for authentic Italian cuisine was evident in every aspect of the operation. His personal story of immigrating from Tuscany, learning restaurant management through years of dedicated work, and building Trattoria Bellecourt into one of Hartford's most respected dining establishments provided context for understanding the business results I would be analyzing. This restaurant represents my family's commitment to sharing authentic Italian culinary traditions with our Hartford community, Giuseppe explained as he guided me through the dining rooms and kitchen facilities. Every recipe, every ingredient selection, every service standard reflects our dedication to providing guests with genuine Italian dining experiences that honor our cultural heritage. Giuseppe's passionate commitment to culinary excellence and authentic hospitality provided insight into the operational philosophy that had created Trattoria Bellecourt's strong reputation and customer loyalty. However, the analysis would need to determine whether this commitment to quality had created sustainable competitive advantages or operational inefficiencies that could affect acquisition viability. The restaurant's financial records that Giuseppe provided for my review revealed a business operation that consistently prioritized quality and customer satisfaction over maximum profit optimization. While this approach had generated excellent reputation and loyal clientele, it had also created cost structures and operational patterns that would require careful analysis to determine their impact on future growth potential. The initial review of financial documents revealed sophisticated record-keeping systems and comprehensive performance tracking that would provide excellent foundation for detailed analysis. Rather than encountering disorganized or incomplete financial information, I discovered systematic documentation that would enable thorough evaluation of operational performance and strategic potential. The afternoon brought my first extended analytical work session in Trattoria Bellecourt's private dining room, which Giuseppe had made available for my exclusive use during the evaluation period. The quiet, professional workspace provided ideal environment for concentrated analysis while maintaining proximity to restaurant operations and management personnel who could provide operational insights and clarifications. The systematic approach to financial analysis that I had developed through years of accounting work proved ideally suited to restaurant evaluation complexities. The integration of revenue analysis, cost structure evaluation, cash flow assessment, and operational efficiency metrics created comprehensive understanding of Trattoria Bellecourt's financial performance and strategic positioning. However, the most significant development of that first day involved recognition that my analytical approach naturally integrated financial evaluation with operational insights and strategic considerations. Rather than simply processing numerical data, I found myself developing comprehensive understanding of how financial performance reflected operational decisions, market positioning, and strategic priorities that affected long-term sustainability and growth potential. The evening brought reflection on how dramatically this first day had expanded my understanding of business analysis and strategic thinking. Rather than feeling overwhelmed by increased complexity, I experienced growing confidence in my ability to contribute meaningfully to sophisticated business decisions through systematic analytical work and integrated strategic thinking. The phone conversation with Anthony Castellano at the conclusion of that first day provided encouragement that reinforced the value of my analytical approach while establishing clear expectations for the comprehensive evaluation that would guide acquisition decision-making over the following weeks. Isabella, your initial observations about Trattoria Bellecourt's operational philosophy and financial performance patterns demonstrate exactly the kind of integrated thinking that complex acquisitions require, Anthony commented with genuine appreciation. The systematic approach you are taking will provide us with the foundation we need for confident strategic decision-making. The recognition that my analytical work was already providing valuable insights after just one day of evaluation created validation that extended beyond professional acknowledgement, to include personal recognition that I possessed capabilities for contributing meaningfully to sophisticated business challenges. The drive home that evening provided opportunity to process the transformative nature of this first day, in a professional environment that demanded strategic thinking, collaborative excellence, and analytical sophistication that extended far beyond my previous accounting experience. Rather than feeling intimidated by these elevated expectations, I experienced energizing recognition that this assignment would provide opportunities for professional development and personal growth. The contrast between this sophisticated analytical work and my routine tax preparation responsibilities at Sterling & Associates revealed how significantly I had underestimated my potential for contributing to complex business decisions and strategic planning initiatives. The systematic thinking and attention to detail that I had applied to routine accounting tasks proved ideally suited to restaurant acquisition analysis and strategic evaluation. The evening conversation with my mother revealed the extent to which my professional confidence had already begun affecting my overall self-perception and approach to personal challenges. Rather than automatically seeking her approval or expressing anxiety about expanded responsibilities, I found myself describing the assignment with enthusiasm and confidence that reflected genuine excitement about professional growth opportunities. Isabella, you need to be careful about taking on responsibilities that extend beyond your experience and training, my mother cautioned with her familiar protective concern. These restaurant people are sophisticated business professionals who expect certain levels of expertise and social skills that accounting work has not provided you. However, rather than automatically accepting this assessment and moderating my enthusiasm accordingly, I found myself responding with perspective that surprised both of us. The successful completion of my first day's analytical work had provided evidence that my systematic approach and attention to detail were directly relevant to sophisticated business challenges. The analytical work I completed today demonstrated that my systematic thinking and financial expertise are exactly what complex acquisition decisions require. I replied with confidence that reflected genuine recognition of my professional capabilities. Anthony Castellano specifically requested my involvement because my analytical approach can contribute meaningfully to strategic decision-making. The conversation that followed revealed how significantly my perspective on professional limitations and growth potential had begun to shift through exposure to sophisticated business challenges and recognition from experienced executives. Rather than viewing expanded responsibilities as evidence of overreaching beyond my capabilities, I was beginning to understand that systematic analytical thinking could create value in contexts far beyond traditional accounting functions. As I prepared for sleep that evening, I recognized that this first day at Castellano Industries had introduced me to professional possibilities and personal capabilities that I had never previously imagined. The mentor relationship that was developing with Anthony Castellano would provide guidance and encouragement for continued growth, while the analytical challenges ahead would demand development of strategic thinking and collaborative skills that would transform my understanding of my own potential. The woman who had reluctantly accepted this assignment just 1 week earlier had discovered that professional competence creates opportunities for extraordinary contribution and personal development that extend far beyond original expectations and assumptions about limitation and possibility. The second week of my engagement with Castellano Industries marked the transition from preliminary orientation to comprehensive analytical responsibility that would define the trajectory of both the restaurant acquisition and my professional development. The systematic approach I had established during my initial evaluation of Trattoria Bellecourt would now be applied to detailed financial analysis, operational assessment, and strategic planning that would directly influence multi-million-dollar business decisions. Anthony Castellano's briefing on Monday morning established the analytical framework that would guide my comprehensive evaluation over the following month. The acquisition analysis would require integration of financial performance assessment with market research, competitive analysis, operational evaluation, and strategic planning that would provide the foundation for informed decision-making regarding Trattoria Bellecourt's potential as an addition to the Castellano Industries restaurant portfolio. The scope of analytical responsibility represented a fundamental expansion from my previous accounting experience, requiring development of expertise in restaurant industry dynamics, consumer behavior analysis, competitive positioning assessment, and strategic planning methodologies. Rather than feeling overwhelmed by these expanded requirements, I experienced energizing recognition that this project would provide opportunities to apply systematic thinking to complex business challenges that extended far beyond traditional financial evaluation. The research phase began with comprehensive analysis of Hartford's dining market, demographic trends, and consumer behavior patterns that would affect Trattoria Bellecourt's future performance under different ownership and management approaches. The market research revealed sophisticated dynamics involving income distribution, lifestyle preferences, dining frequency patterns, and competitive positioning factors that would determine the restaurant's long-term viability and growth potential. Hartford's downtown district had experienced significant demographic evolution over the previous decade, with increasing numbers of young professionals, affluent retirees, and dual-income households whose lifestyle preferences and discretionary spending patterns favored upscale dining establishments that provided sophisticated culinary experiences and elegant social environments. These demographic trends created expanding market opportunities for restaurants that could deliver authentic cuisine with exceptional service standards. The competitive landscape analysis required systematic evaluation of 37 restaurants within a 3-mile radius of Trattoria Bellecourt, including detailed assessment of their market positioning, price points, culinary specializations, service standards, and customer loyalty patterns. This comprehensive competitive analysis revealed market gaps and positioning advantages that Trattoria Bellecourt could exploit through strategic improvements and targeted marketing initiatives. The most significant discovery during this research phase involved recognition that Trattoria Bellecourt occupied a unique market position that combined authentic Italian cuisine with upscale dining environment and exceptional service standards that differentiated it from both casual Italian restaurants and generic fine dining establishments. This distinctive positioning provided competitive advantages that could support premium pricing and customer loyalty development under strategic management. The financial analysis phase demanded systematic evaluation of 5 years of comprehensive financial records, including detailed examination of revenue patterns, cost structures, cash flow dynamics, seasonal variations, and profitability trends that would determine acquisition viability and strategic potential. The financial documentation revealed sophisticated record-keeping systems and comprehensive performance tracking that provided excellent foundation for detailed analytical work. Giuseppe Bellecourt's commitment to authentic Italian cuisine had created operational patterns that consistently prioritized ingredient quality and preparation standards over cost minimization, resulting in food costs that exceeded industry averages while generating customer satisfaction and loyalty that supported premium pricing and repeat business. The analysis required sophisticated evaluation of whether these operational approaches created sustainable competitive advantages or inefficiencies that could affect long-term profitability. The revenue analysis revealed strong performance consistency over the evaluation period, with gradual growth in average transaction values and customer visit frequency that reflected successful market positioning and customer satisfaction management. The seasonal variation patterns indicated reliable performance throughout the calendar year, with modest increases during holiday periods and summer months that corresponded with increased business entertainment and tourist activity. The cost structure evaluation required detailed examination of food costs, labor expenses, facility maintenance, marketing investments, and administrative overhead that would determine operational efficiency and profitability optimization opportunities. The analysis revealed operational approaches that emphasized quality and customer satisfaction, while maintaining financial performance that could support debt service and strategic investment requirements. Labor cost analysis presented particular complexity because Giuseppe's commitment to exceptional service standards had resulted in staffing levels and compensation rates that exceeded industry averages, while generating customer satisfaction and employee loyalty that contributed directly to operational excellence and competitive differentiation. The evaluation required sophisticated assessment of whether these labor investments created value that justified their costs through enhanced revenue generation and operational stability. The facility assessment involved comprehensive evaluation of the restaurant's physical assets, including kitchen equipment, dining room infrastructure, technology systems, and maintenance requirements that would affect acquisition costs and capital investment needs. The property evaluation revealed well-maintained facilities with equipment and systems that would require minimal initial investment while supporting operational excellence and future expansion possibilities. The third week brought integration of financial analysis with operational assessment and strategic planning that would provide comprehensive foundation for acquisition decision-making. This integration phase demanded synthesis of diverse analytical components into coherent strategic narrative that connected financial performance with operational capabilities and market opportunities. The customer satisfaction analysis involved systematic evaluation of online reviews, customer surveys, and loyalty program participation that revealed strong customer relationships and positive reputation that supported Trattoria Bellecourt's market positioning and future growth potential. The customer feedback analysis indicated consistent appreciation for authentic cuisine, exceptional service, and elegant dining environment that created competitive advantages in Hartford's upscale dining market. The supplier relationship assessment revealed established partnerships with specialty food distributors and local producers that provided access to high-quality ingredients while maintaining cost structures that supported profitability. Giuseppe's long-term relationships with suppliers had created reliability and preferential pricing that would transfer to new ownership while supporting continued operational excellence and menu authenticity. The staff evaluation presented evidence of experienced, loyal employees whose tenure and expertise contributed directly to operational efficiency and customer satisfaction. The low turnover rates and high skill levels represented valuable assets that would support smooth ownership transition while maintaining service standards and operational continuity that customers expected. The strategic planning phase required development of specific recommendations for operational improvements, marketing initiatives, and expansion opportunities that could enhance Trattoria Bellecourt's performance under Castellano Industries' ownership and management. This strategic analysis demanded creative thinking about growth possibilities while preserving the authentic character and customer loyalty that had created the restaurant's market success. The operational improvement recommendations focused on efficiency enhancements that could reduce costs without compromising quality or service standards. The analysis identified technology upgrades, inventory management improvements, and scheduling optimizations that could increase profitability while maintaining operational excellence and customer satisfaction. The marketing expansion recommendations addressed opportunities for reaching broader customer segments through enhanced digital presence, strategic partnerships, and special events that could increase revenue while reinforcing Trattoria Bellecourt's market positioning and brand recognition. The marketing analysis revealed significant untapped potential for attracting new customers while strengthening relationships with existing clientele. The facility optimization recommendations identified modest capital investments that could enhance dining capacity, improve operational efficiency, and support revenue growth through enhanced customer experience and operational capabilities. The proposed improvements would require minimal initial investment while generating substantial returns through increased revenue and operational efficiency. The collaboration with Linda Morrison during this strategic planning phase provided operational insights that enhanced the practical applicability of my analytical recommendations. Her extensive restaurant management experience enabled integration of financial analysis with operational realities that would determine implementation success and strategic value creation. Isabella, your systematic approach to connecting financial performance with operational factors has created comprehensive understanding of what makes Trattoria Bellecourt successful and how that success could be enhanced under our ownership, Linda observed during our strategic planning sessions. The integration of analytical rigor with practical operational insights will provide Anthony with exactly the foundation he needs for confident acquisition decision-making. The fourth week culminated in preparation of comprehensive acquisition analysis that synthesized all analytical components into integrated strategic recommendations that would guide Castellano Industries' decision-making process. The final report represented over 100 pages of detailed analysis, including financial evaluation, market assessment, competitive analysis, operational review, and strategic planning that provided thorough foundation for multi-million-dollar acquisition decision. The report preparation required development of executive summary that distilled complex analytical findings into clear strategic insights that could guide rapid decision-making, while providing detailed supporting analysis that would enable thorough evaluation of acquisition risks and opportunities. The communication challenge demanded translation of sophisticated analytical work into accessible strategic narrative that would inform business leaders with diverse expertise and priority considerations. The presentation preparation involved development of comprehensive materials that could communicate analytical findings through visual representations, comparative analysis, and strategic recommendations that would enable effective discussion and informed decision-making during executive review sessions. The presentation development process revealed communication capabilities that I had never previously applied to strategic business contexts. The final day of analysis preparation brought recognition that this month-long project had fundamentally transformed my understanding of business strategy, analytical methodology, and professional capabilities. The systematic approach that I had applied to restaurant acquisition analysis had revealed strategic thinking abilities and collaborative skills that extended far beyond traditional accounting functions. The confidence that had developed through successful completion of complex analytical challenges provided foundation for approaching the upcoming presentation to Castellano Industries executives with anticipation rather than anxiety. The comprehensive analysis that I had completed represented sophisticated strategic thinking that could withstand rigorous examination by experienced business leaders. The professional growth that had occurred during this intensive analytical project extended beyond technical capabilities to include communication skills, strategic thinking, and collaborative abilities that would support continued advancement and expanded responsibilities. The recognition that systematic analytical thinking could create value in sophisticated business contexts had challenged fundamental assumptions about professional limitations and growth potential. The evening before the executive presentation brought final preparation that included reviewing analytical findings, organizing supporting documentation, and mentally preparing for the strategic discussion that would determine both the acquisition decision and my future involvement with Castellano Industries. Rather than experiencing overwhelming pressure, I found myself energized by the opportunity to present analytical work that represented the most sophisticated professional contribution of my career. The woman who would enter the Castellano Industries executive conference room the following morning had been transformed through intensive engagement with complex business challenges that had revealed capabilities she had never recognized or developed. The crossing of the threshold from routine accounting work to strategic business analysis had created foundation for professional advancement and personal development that would ultimately enable extraordinary achievements in both career and personal relationships. The analytical excellence that would be demonstrated in tomorrow's presentation would establish credibility and recognition that would create opportunities for continued growth while building confidence that would transform every aspect of life, including the capacity for attracting and sustaining the extraordinary love that would prove all limiting beliefs and negative predictions completely incorrect. The second week of the Trattoria Bellicourt analysis brought challenges that would test every aspect of my newfound professional confidence and reveal capabilities I had never been required to develop. What began as routine financial evaluation evolved into complex problem-solving that demanded creative thinking, diplomatic communication, and strategic decision-making under significant time pressure. The complications emerged on Tuesday morning, when Giuseppe Bellicourt arrived at our scheduled meeting with obvious distress and a manila folder containing documents that would fundamentally alter the scope of my analysis. His usually composed demeanor had been replaced by anxious energy that immediately signaled serious developments affecting the acquisition evaluation. "Isabella, I must share information with you that could affect your assessment of my restaurant's value," Giuseppe began, his Italian accent more pronounced than usual due to his evident concern. "Yesterday I received notification from the Hartford Development Authority regarding proposed zoning changes that could impact downtown parking regulations and potentially affect customer access to Trattoria Bellicourt. The zoning notification revealed that the city was considering implementing paid parking restrictions throughout the downtown district, including the street-level spaces that many of Giuseppe's regular customers relied upon for convenient restaurant access. The proposed changes would take effect within 6 months, potentially reducing customer traffic and affecting revenue projections that formed the foundation of my acquisition analysis. This development presented the first major obstacle that would require me to demonstrate analytical flexibility and problem-solving capabilities under circumstances that extended beyond routine financial evaluation. Rather than simply reporting this complication to Anthony Castellano and requesting guidance, I recognized that providing strategic solutions would better serve both the client relationship and my own professional development. The challenge demanded comprehensive analysis of multiple interconnected factors that would determine how parking restrictions might affect restaurant operations. Customer survey data needed to be re-evaluated to understand transportation patterns and price sensitivity regarding dining decisions. Revenue projections required adjustment to account for potential traffic reduction. Alternative solutions needed to be identified and evaluated for their feasibility and effectiveness. My initial response to this complication revealed how significantly my approach to professional challenges had evolved over the previous week. Rather than feeling overwhelmed by unexpected complexity, I experienced energizing focus that channeled anxiety into systematic problem-solving methodology. The confidence I had gained through successful completion of initial analysis phases provided foundation for tackling problems that required creative thinking and strategic innovation. The research process that followed consumed the remainder of that week and demonstrated analytical capabilities that I had never previously applied to real-world business challenges. I conducted detailed interviews with Giuseppe's staff to understand customer behavior patterns and dining decision factors. I analyzed comparable restaurant situations in other cities that had implemented similar parking restrictions. I developed financial models that projected various scenarios and their potential impact on restaurant profitability. The investigation revealed that while parking restrictions would likely affect some customer segments, the impact could be minimized through strategic adjustments to marketing approaches, service offerings, and operational procedures. Upscale restaurants with strong reputations and loyal customer bases typically experienced temporary revenue decreases that stabilized within 6 to 12 months as customers adapted to new parking realities. More importantly, the analysis identified opportunities that the parking situation could actually create for enhancing restaurant profitability and customer experience. Valet parking services, partnerships with nearby parking facilities, and emphasis on public transportation accessibility could differentiate Trattoria Bellecourt from competitors, while potentially attracting customer segments that valued convenient, full-service dining experiences. Wednesday afternoon brought another complication that would test my diplomatic skills and professional judgment when Linda Morrison discovered discrepancies in Giuseppe's reported labor costs that required careful investigation and sensitive handling. The payroll records indicated higher staffing levels and compensation rates than industry standards typically supported, suggesting either operational inefficiencies or accounting irregularities that could significantly affect acquisition valuation. The discovery created a delicate situation that required balancing thorough financial analysis with preservation of trust and cooperation between Giuseppe and the Castellano Industries team. Confrontational approaches could damage relationships essential to successful acquisition completion, while inadequate investigation could result in inaccurate valuation and poor acquisition decisions. My approach to resolving this situation demonstrated communication skills that I had never been required to develop in my previous accounting roles. Rather than presenting the discrepancies as potential problems or deceptions, I framed the investigation as an opportunity to understand Giuseppe's operational philosophy and identify ways that Castellano Industries could preserve the restaurant's distinctive culture while optimizing financial performance. The conversations with Giuseppe that followed revealed that his higher labor costs resulted from his commitment to providing exceptional compensation and extensive training for service staff, creating employee loyalty and service quality that contributed directly to customer satisfaction and retention. Rather than representing operational inefficiency, these labor investments generated customer loyalty and positive reputation that supported premium pricing and strong revenue performance. The analysis of this staffing approach required integration of financial data with customer satisfaction metrics, employee retention statistics, and service quality measurements that demonstrated the strategic value of Giuseppe's human resource investments. The higher labor costs were offset by reduced recruitment expenses, lower training costs for experienced staff, and enhanced customer experience that supported repeat business and referral generation. Thursday morning brought the most significant challenge of the week when Anthony Castellano requested an accelerated timeline for completing the acquisition analysis due to competitive pressure from another restaurant group that had expressed interest in purchasing Trattoria Bellecourt. The compressed schedule would require completion of remaining analysis within 10 days rather than the originally planned 3 weeks. This timeline acceleration created pressure that tested every aspect of my professional capabilities and personal resilience. The remaining analysis included comprehensive market research, competitive positioning assessment, operational integration planning, and financial projection modeling that typically required careful, methodical development over extended periods. The challenge demanded not only analytical efficiency, but also strategic prioritization of analysis components that would provide the most critical information for acquisition decision-making. Rather than attempting to complete every possible evaluation metric, I needed to identify the essential factors that would determine acquisition success and focus intensive effort on those areas. My response to this pressure revealed personal qualities that I had never previously recognized or developed. Rather than becoming paralyzed by overwhelming responsibilities or compromising analytical quality to meet unrealistic deadlines, I applied systematic project management approaches that maximized productivity while maintaining professional standards. The solution involved creating detailed work schedules that allocated specific time blocks for each analysis component, establishing clear priorities based on their importance to acquisition decision-making, and developing efficient methodologies that could produce reliable results within compressed timeframes. Rather than working longer hours indiscriminately, I focused on working more strategically and efficiently. The weekend provided intensive work periods that demonstrated sustained concentration and analytical stamina that exceeded my previous professional experience. Rather than feeling depleted by extended work sessions, I discovered that engagement with meaningful, challenging problems generated energy and motivation that supported high-level performance over prolonged periods. The analysis that emerged from this intensive work period represented the most comprehensive and sophisticated professional output I had ever produced. Rather than simply presenting financial data and basic conclusions, I developed integrated strategic recommendations that addressed acquisition economics, operational optimization opportunities, market positioning strategies, and implementation approaches that would maximize value creation. Monday morning brought the presentation of findings to the complete Castellano Industries executive team, including family members and board advisors, whose approval would be required for proceeding with the acquisition. This presentation represented the culmination of 2 weeks of intensive analysis and the ultimate test of my ability to communicate complex findings to sophisticated audiences whose business experience far exceeded my own. The conference room setting included 12 executives whose combined experience encompassed decades of restaurant management, real estate development, financial management, and strategic planning. Their questions would test not only my analytical conclusions, but also my understanding of restaurant industry dynamics, market trends, and operational realities that affected acquisition success. The presentation began with comprehensive overview of Trattoria Bellecourt's financial performance, market position, and strategic value as an addition to the Castellano Industries restaurant portfolio. Rather than simply reporting data, I provided narrative analysis that explained the relationships between different performance metrics and their implications for future growth and profitability under different ownership and management approaches. The discussion of parking restrictions and labor cost analysis demonstrated my ability to address complex challenges with strategic thinking and creative problem-solving that generated solutions rather than simply identifying problems. The executives' questions revealed genuine appreciation for the thoroughness and sophistication of the analysis, particularly the integration of financial evaluation with operational insights and strategic recommendations. The most challenging questions came from Vincent Castellano, the family patriarch whose restaurant industry experience spanned 4 decades, and whose approval was essential for major acquisition decisions. His inquiries tested my understanding of customer loyalty dynamics, competitive positioning factors, and operational integration challenges that could affect acquisition success. Rather than intimidating me, Vincent's questions provided opportunities to demonstrate analytical depth and strategic thinking that I had developed through intensive engagement with the evaluation process. My responses revealed comprehensive understanding of restaurant economics and practical appreciation for operational realities that successful acquisitions required. The presentation concluded with unanimous executive team approval for proceeding with the Trattoria Bellecourt acquisition, contingent upon successful negotiation of purchase terms and final due diligence procedures. Anthony Castellano's summary comments provided validation that exceeded my most optimistic expectations regarding professional recognition and career advancement possibilities. Isabella's analysis has provided us with exactly the comprehensive evaluation we needed to move forward with confidence, Anthony announced to the assembled executives. Her ability to integrate financial analysis with strategic insights and operational understanding has been exceptional. This represents the kind of sophisticated thinking that major acquisitions require. The recognition extended beyond simple appreciation for completed work to include invitation for continued involvement in acquisition implementation and ongoing strategic analysis for other Castellano Industries expansion opportunities. Rather than viewing this project as temporary assignment, Anthony proposed development of ongoing consulting relationship that would provide career advancement opportunities I had never imagined possible. The week concluded with Giuseppe Bellacorte's personal expression of gratitude for the respectful and thorough approach I had taken to evaluating his life's work. His appreciation reflected not only professional competence but also the diplomatic sensitivity that had preserved relationships while conducting comprehensive analysis of potentially sensitive operational and financial issues. As I prepared for the celebratory dinner at Trattoria Bellacorte that would mark the successful completion of this analysis phase, I recognized that the previous 2 weeks had fundamentally transformed my understanding of my professional capabilities and career possibilities. The woman who had accepted this assignment with significant anxiety and self-doubt had demonstrated analytical expertise, strategic thinking, and professional communication skills that commanded respect from sophisticated business leaders. The tests and trials of accelerated timelines, complex problem-solving, and high-pressure presentations had revealed capabilities that extended far beyond routine accounting functions. Rather than being overwhelmed by sophisticated business challenges, I had thrived in environments that demanded creative thinking, diplomatic communication, and strategic analysis. The transformation in professional confidence created foundation for personal growth that would ultimately lead to the extraordinary love story that no one, including myself, could have predicted when I first walked through the doors of Castellano Industries headquarters 3 weeks earlier. The celebratory dinner at Trattoria Bellacorte on Friday evening would introduce me to relationships and social dynamics that would fundamentally alter my understanding of professional networking, personal connection, and the possibility that someone like me could belong in sophisticated social environments. The invitation that had initially created anxiety would prove to be the catalyst for discovering allies who would support my continued transformation and encountering resistance that would test my newfound confidence. Giuseppe Bellacorte had transformed his restaurant into an intimate celebration space for the 12 people who had contributed to the successful acquisition analysis. The private dining room, normally reserved for special events and corporate gatherings, provided an elegant setting with candlelit tables, carefully selected wine pairings, and a specially prepared menu that showcased the culinary artistry that had made Trattoria Bellacorte one of Hartford's most respected dining establishments. The guest list included the Castellano Industries executive team, key staff members from both organizations, and several family members whose support had been essential to the acquisition decision. This would represent my first experience dining in such sophisticated company, requiring navigation of social protocols and conversation dynamics that extended far beyond my previous professional interactions. My preparation for this evening had required careful consideration of appropriate attire, social etiquette, and conversation approaches that would demonstrate professionalism while avoiding the self-consciousness that had historically made me withdraw from social situations. Rather than declining the invitation due to anxiety about potential awkwardness, I had chosen to view this dinner as an opportunity to practice social skills that would support my continued professional development. The transformation in my appearance reflected the growing confidence that had emerged through successful completion of complex analytical challenges. Instead of my usual conservative business attire designed to minimize attention, I had selected a navy dress with elegant lines that expressed both professionalism and personal style. Rather than pulling my hair back in its customary practical ponytail, I had allowed it to fall naturally around my shoulders, creating a softer appearance that reflected my evolving self-perception. Upon arriving at Trattoria Bellacorte, I discovered that my anticipated social anxiety had been replaced by genuine excitement about celebrating professional achievements with colleagues who had become respected collaborators rather than intimidating superiors. The successful completion of challenging analytical work had created foundation for social confidence that I had never previously experienced. Linda Morrison immediately approached me with enthusiasm that demonstrated how professional relationships could evolve into genuine friendships when built on mutual respect and shared accomplishments. Her warm greeting and invitation to sit beside her at the dinner table provided immediate reassurance that I belonged in this celebration as a valued contributor, rather than an outsider attempting to fit into unfamiliar social territory. "Isabella, I cannot tell you how impressed everyone has been with your analysis," Linda said as we settled into our seats. "Your ability to understand restaurant operations so quickly, while providing such sophisticated financial insights, has been remarkable. Anthony has been telling everyone that finding someone with your analytical capabilities and collaborative approach has been one of the best decisions we have made this year." The conversation that followed revealed how my professional performance had created positive impressions that extended throughout the Castellano Industries organization. Rather than being viewed as a temporary contractor completing routine analysis, I had established reputation as strategic thinking partner whose contributions would be valued for future projects and ongoing business relationships. James Chen joined our conversation with equally positive feedback about the collaborative process and specific appreciation for the creative problem-solving approaches I had developed for addressing the parking restriction challenges. His comments revealed that my analytical work had influenced not only the immediate acquisition decision, but also strategic thinking about other restaurant development opportunities that Castellano Industries was considering. "The way you approached the zoning complications demonstrated exactly the kind of innovative thinking that complex real estate decisions require," James explained. "Rather than viewing regulatory challenges as obstacles, you identified ways to turn them into competitive advantages through enhanced service offerings and operational differentiation. That perspective is invaluable for restaurant development in urban markets." The recognition from James provided validation that my contributions had created lasting value extending beyond the specific Trattoria Bellecourt analysis. Rather than completing isolated project work, I had demonstrated capabilities that could support ongoing strategic initiatives and business development opportunities. Vincent Castellano, the family patriarch whose approval had been essential for the acquisition decision, approached our table midway through the evening with comments that would prove particularly significant for my understanding of how professional relationships could create personal growth opportunities. His perspective carried weight that reflected decades of business experience and family leadership responsibility. "Young lady, in 40 years of restaurant business, I have worked with many financial analysts and business consultants," Vincent said with the authority that comes from extensive industry experience. "Most of them understand numbers but do not understand people. Your analysis demonstrated appreciation for both financial performance and human factors that make restaurants successful. That combination is rare and valuable." Vincent's assessment provided insight into qualities that I had not consciously recognized in my analytical approach. The integration of financial evaluation with operational understanding and human dynamics had emerged naturally from my systematic methodology. But Vincent's recognition revealed that this integration represented distinctive professional capability that created competitive advantage in restaurant industry consulting. The conversation with Vincent evolved into broader discussion about restaurant industry trends, family business dynamics, and strategic challenges that successful hospitality companies faced in competitive markets. Rather than feeling intimidated by his extensive experience, I found myself contributing insights and asking questions that demonstrated genuine interest in understanding business complexities that extended beyond immediate analytical responsibilities. As the evening progressed, Giuseppe Bellecourt made presentations recognizing everyone who had contributed to the successful acquisition process. His acknowledgement of my work emphasized not only analytical competence, but also the respectful and thorough approach I had taken to evaluating his family's restaurant legacy. Isabella understood that Trattoria Bellecourt represents more than financial statements and operational metrics, Giuseppe announced to the assembled guests. She appreciated the passion and dedication that my family has invested in creating authentic Italian dining experiences. Her analysis honored our commitment to quality while identifying opportunities for growth and improvement under new ownership. Giuseppe's recognition provided emotional validation that extended beyond professional accomplishment to include appreciation for the sensitivity and respect that had guided my approach to analyzing someone's life work. The acknowledgement created connection between business success and human values that would prove significant for my developing understanding of how professional excellence could align with personal integrity. However, the evening also introduced me to dynamics that would test my growing confidence and reveal challenges that successful transformation inevitably encounters. Margaret Stevens, a restaurant industry consultant who had been invited as a courtesy due to previous work with Castellano Industries, demonstrated immediate skepticism about my qualifications and contributions that reflected broader resistance to outsiders entering established professional networks. Margaret's approach throughout the dinner included subtle questions about my restaurant industry experience, pointed observations about the complexities of hospitality business analysis, and implied suggestions that comprehensive restaurant evaluation required specialized expertise that accounting professionals typically lacked. Her comments were professionally phrased but clearly designed to undermine confidence in my analytical capabilities. Restaurant acquisitions present unique challenges that extend far beyond traditional financial analysis, Margaret observed during dessert course conversation. Understanding customer behavior patterns, operational integration requirements, and market positioning dynamics typically requires years of specialized industry experience that academic training cannot provide. The implication that my successful analysis had somehow been inadequate or incomplete due to my different professional background created the first direct challenge to the confidence I had developed through collaborative work with the Castellano Industries team. Margaret's subtle undermining represented the kind of professional resistance that outsiders often encounter when entering established industry networks. Rather than responding defensively or allowing Margaret's skepticism to undermine my professional confidence, I found myself drawing on the analytical competence I had demonstrated throughout the acquisition process. My response acknowledged her industry experience while firmly establishing the value that comprehensive financial analysis had provided to the acquisition decision. "You raise important points about industry expertise," I replied with diplomatic professionalism. "My contribution to this acquisition analysis has been integration of comprehensive financial evaluation with operational insights that the Castellano Industries team provided. The collaborative approach has enabled development of strategic recommendations that address both financial performance and operational realities." The conversation that followed provided opportunity to demonstrate analytical depth and professional confidence that effectively countered Margaret's implied criticisms. Rather than being intimidated by her industry credentials, I was able to articulate the specific value that systematic financial analysis had contributed to understanding Trattoria Bellecourt's acquisition potential. Anthony Castellano's intervention in this conversation provided strong support that reinforced the value of my contributions while diplomatically addressing Margaret's concerns. His comments established clear appreciation for the analytical approach I had taken, while acknowledging the importance of industry expertise that other team members had provided. "Margaret, Isabella's financial analysis has been exceptional precisely because it provided perspectives that our industry experience might have caused us to overlook," Anthony stated with clear authority. "The integration of comprehensive financial evaluation with operational insights has created the foundation for confident acquisition decision-making." The support from Anthony in addressing professional skepticism demonstrated how successful collaborative relationships could create advocates who would defend contributions and provide encouragement during challenging situations. Rather than standing alone against criticism, I had developed professional relationships that provided backup and reinforcement. The remainder of the evening proceeded with continued positive interactions that reinforced the value of my analytical work, while providing opportunities to develop relationships that would support continued professional growth. The contrast between Margaret's resistance and the enthusiasm of other dinner guests provided clear indication of how professional competence could create both allies and opponents within industry networks. The conversation with Sarah Castellano, Anthony's younger sister who managed marketing and customer relations for several restaurant properties, provided particularly encouraging insight into opportunities for continued collaboration and professional development. Sarah's background in hospitality marketing had created appreciation for analytical approaches that could support strategic decision-making and operational improvement. "Isabella, your analysis of customer loyalty patterns and retention factors was particularly insightful," Sarah mentioned during our after-dinner conversation. "We have several other properties that could benefit from similar evaluation and strategic recommendations. I hope we can find opportunities to work together on future projects." The prospect of ongoing professional relationships and expanded consulting opportunities represented validation that extended far beyond the immediate Trattoria Bellecourt analysis, to include recognition as strategic thinking partner for broader business development initiatives. As the evening concluded with expressions of appreciation from Giuseppe, the Castellano family members, and other dinner guests, I recognized that this celebration had provided more than recognition for successful project completion. The dinner had introduced me to a professional network that could support continued growth while revealing challenges that transformation inevitably encounters. The drive home provided opportunity to reflect on how significantly my social confidence had developed over the previous month. Rather than feeling anxious or uncomfortable during sophisticated social interactions, I had contributed meaningfully to conversations, handled professional skepticism with diplomatic effectiveness, and established relationships that promised future opportunities and continued collaboration. The woman who had once believed herself incapable of belonging in sophisticated professional and social environments had successfully navigated complex social dynamics while maintaining professional credibility and personal integrity. The allies I had discovered would provide ongoing support and encouragement, while the resistance I had encountered would serve as motivation for continued growth and professional development. The transformation from invisible accountant to respected strategic analyst had created foundation for personal growth that would extend far beyond professional advancement, to include possibilities I had never imagined regarding social connection, personal relationships, and the kind of sophisticated lifestyle that had once seemed permanently beyond my reach. The 3 weeks following the Trattoria Bellecourt celebration brought opportunities that would culminate in the most significant challenge of my transformation journey. Anthony Castellano had invited me to lead the strategic analysis for Castellano Industries' most ambitious expansion project, the acquisition of 5 upscale restaurants throughout New England that would double their operational footprint and establish their presence in premium markets across the region. This multi-property acquisition represented far more than expanded consulting work. The project would require presentation of findings to institutional investors, collaboration with legal teams specializing in complex commercial transactions, and strategic recommendations that would influence decisions affecting hundreds of employees and tens of millions of dollars in investment capital. The scope and complexity extended far beyond anything I had previously undertaken in my professional career. The magnitude of this opportunity created a mixture of excitement and apprehension that reminded me of the emotional complexity I had experienced when first accepting the Trattoria Bellecourt assignment. However, the confidence I had developed through successful completion of challenging analytical work provided foundation for approaching this expanded responsibility with strategic thinking rather than overwhelming anxiety. Anthony's briefing on the acquisition parameters revealed the sophisticated business strategy that had motivated this expansion initiative. Castellano Industries had identified a unique market opportunity created by demographic trends, evolving consumer preferences, and competitive dynamics that favored restaurant groups with operational expertise and financial resources to pursue strategic growth in premium dining segments. The target properties included establishments in Boston, Providence, Burlington, Portland, and New Haven that represented different operational models, market positions, and financial performance patterns. Rather than acquiring similar restaurants that could benefit from standardized management approaches, Castellano Industries was pursuing diversified properties that would require customized integration strategies and individualized operational optimization plans. The analytical complexity of evaluating 5 different restaurants simultaneously would demand systematic methodologies for comparing performance metrics, identifying synergy opportunities, and developing integration recommendations that preserved each property's distinctive market position while achieving operational efficiencies and financial improvements that justified the acquisition investments. My preparation for this analysis began with comprehensive research into regional dining markets, competitive landscapes, and consumer behavior patterns that would affect each property's growth potential under Castellano Industries' ownership and management. The research revealed sophisticated market dynamics that extended far beyond local competition to include changing demographics, evolving lifestyle preferences, and economic trends that influenced dining expenditure patterns across different geographic regions. The Boston market presented particular analytical challenges due to its competitive intensity, high operational costs, and sophisticated customer base, with elevated expectations regarding dining experiences. The target restaurant, Meridian Brasserie, occupied prime real estate in the Back Bay district and had established reputation for contemporary American cuisine, with French influences that attracted both business clientele and discriminating residents. Providence offered different dynamics with Coastal Prime, a seafood-focused establishment that had built loyal customer following through emphasis on locally sourced ingredients, and innovative preparation methods that reflected New England culinary traditions. The restaurant's success depended heavily on supplier relationships, seasonal menu planning, and operational flexibility that accommodated fluctuating ingredient availability and pricing. Burlington's Mountain View Grill represented the most challenging analytical proposition due to seasonal revenue patterns that reflected Vermont's tourism economy and weather-dependent customer traffic. The restaurant's financial performance varied dramatically between peak summer and winter seasons, requiring sophisticated forecasting models and operational strategies that could maintain profitability during slower periods while maximizing revenue during high-demand seasons. Portland's Harbor House provided stable year-round operations, but faced increasing competitive pressure from newer establishments targeting similar customer segments with contemporary design concepts and innovative marketing approaches. The acquisition analysis would need to evaluate modernization requirements and repositioning strategies that could restore competitive advantage while preserving established customer loyalty. New Haven's University Tavern presented unique considerations due to its proximity to Yale University and resulting customer base that combined academic community members with broader regional clientele. The restaurant's success required understanding of academic calendar influences, student spending patterns, and town-gown relationship dynamics that affected both operational planning and marketing strategies. The comprehensive analysis of these 5 properties would require development of integrated evaluation framework that could accommodate different operational models while identifying common success factors and synergy opportunities that would justify combined acquisition rather than individual property purchases. The first major challenge emerged during my initial site visits when I discovered that each restaurant's financial record-keeping systems use different accounting methodologies, reporting periods, and performance metrics that would require extensive standardization before meaningful comparative analysis could be conducted. The variation in documentation quality and analytical sophistication meant that developing reliable financial assessments would demand significantly more time and effort than originally projected. The standardization process revealed the importance of systematic analytical approaches that could extract comparable insights from disparate information sources while maintaining accuracy and reliability that acquisition decisions required. Rather than becoming frustrated by documentation inconsistencies, I developed methodologies for creating standardized performance metrics that enabled valid comparisons across different operational environments and business models. The second significant challenge involved coordinating site visits, owner interviews, and staff consultations across 5 different cities, while maintaining momentum on analytical work that required concentrated focus and detailed attention to complex financial relationships. The logistical complexity of multi-property analysis demanded project management capabilities that I had never previously developed in professional contexts. The solution involved creating detailed project schedules that optimize travel efficiency while ensuring adequate time for comprehensive analysis at each location. Rather than attempting to rush through site visits to minimize travel time, I allocated sufficient time for thorough evaluation that would provide reliable foundations for strategic recommendations and acquisition decisions. The travel schedule required me to spend extended periods away from my familiar Hartford environment, staying in hotels, dining alone in unfamiliar cities, and navigating transportation and communication challenges that tested personal independence and adaptability. These experiences, while initially uncomfortable, contributed to growing confidence in my ability to operate effectively in diverse professional environments. The most daunting aspect of this expanded project involved the presentation requirements that would accompany completion of the analysis. Rather than presenting findings to familiar Castellano Industries executives, I would be required to present strategic recommendations to institutional investors, legal advisors, and industry experts whose approval would be essential for securing acquisition financing and regulatory approvals. The investor presentation would take place at the offices of Hartford Capital Partners, a prestigious investment firm that managed portfolios exceeding $2 billion and whose principals included former investment banking executives, private equity specialists, and institutional fund managers with sophisticated expertise in restaurant industry investments and merger and acquisition transactions. The prospect of presenting complex analytical findings to such an audience created anxiety that recalled my initial reaction to the Trattoria Bellecourt assignment, but with heightened intensity that reflected the expanded scope and visibility of this project. The presentation would represent the culmination of 6 weeks of intensive analytical work and would determine whether my professional development would continue advancing or plateau at current levels. Preparation for the investor presentation required development of communication strategies that could translate complex analytical findings into clear strategic insights that would enable investment decision-making by audiences with different expertise and priority considerations. The presentation materials would need to address financial performance, market opportunities, operational integration requirements, and risk mitigation strategies with sophistication that matched the audience's expertise while remaining accessible to decision-makers whose primary concerns focused on investment returns and risk management. The weeks leading up to the presentation brought additional pressures when preliminary findings revealed more complex competitive and operational challenges than initial assessments had suggested. Several target properties faced regulatory compliance issues, labor relation complications, and facility maintenance requirements that would affect both acquisition costs and integration timelines. These discoveries necessitated expanded analysis that extended beyond original project parameters while maintaining the scheduled presentation deadline. The integration of negative findings with positive acquisition recommendations required diplomatic analytical approaches that acknowledged challenges, while demonstrating how strategic management and operational improvements could address problems and generate superior investment returns. Rather than minimizing difficulties or presenting overly optimistic projections, I needed to develop balanced assessments that provided realistic expectations while maintaining investor confidence in the acquisition strategy. The final week before the presentation brought intense preparation that would test every aspect of my professional development and personal growth over the previous months. The analytical work had generated over 200 pages of detailed findings that needed to be synthesized into compelling strategic narrative that could be presented effectively within the time constraints and attention spans that executive presentations required. The presentation development process revealed how significantly my communication capabilities had evolved since beginning work with Castellano Industries. Rather than simply reporting analytical findings, I was crafting strategic stories that connected financial data with operational insights and market opportunities to create comprehensive understanding of acquisition potential and implementation requirements. The practice sessions with Anthony Castellano and his executive team provided feedback that refined presentation content and delivery approaches, while building confidence in my ability to handle sophisticated questions and challenging inquiries that institutional investors would likely present. These rehearsals revealed that my analytical depth and systematic thinking had created expertise that could withstand rigorous examination by experienced industry professionals. The evening before the Hartford Capital Partners presentation brought final preparation that included reviewing potential questions, organizing supporting documentation, and mentally preparing for the most significant professional challenge of my career. Rather than experiencing overwhelming anxiety, I found myself focused and energized by the opportunity to demonstrate capabilities that had developed through months of systematic growth and challenging project work. The woman who would enter the Hartford Capital Partners conference room the following morning bore little resemblance to the hesitant accountant who had reluctantly accepted the Trattoria Bellecourt assignment 4 months earlier. The transformation in professional competence, communication capabilities, and personal confidence had created foundation for pursuing opportunities that would have seemed impossible from my previous limited perspective. The approach to this crucial presentation represented more than career advancement or professional recognition. Success would validate the transformation process that had challenged every assumption about my capabilities and potential, while proving that systematic growth and persistent effort could create extraordinary results, regardless of starting circumstances or natural advantages. The stakes involved far more than acquisition approval or investment decisions. This presentation would determine whether the professional identity I had developed through intensive growth and challenging work would be recognized and validated by sophisticated audiences, whose expertise and experience represented the highest levels of business achievement. The inmost cave I was approaching represented the ultimate test of transformation that had begun with overhearing my mother's devastating assessment of my romantic prospects and had evolved through professional challenges into comprehensive personal development that would ultimately create the foundation for the extraordinary love story that no one could have predicted when I first walked through Castellano Industries' doors. The morning of the Hartford Capital Partners presentation arrived with crystalline clarity that seemed to illuminate every detail of downtown Hartford as I walked toward the 30-story glass tower that housed one of New England's most prestigious investment firms. The autumn air carried the crispness of October, and the confidence that had been building through months of professional challenges felt as sharp and focused as the bright morning light reflecting off the building's pristine windows. Hartford Capital Partners occupied floors 27 through 30 of the Commerce Plaza, with their executive conference facilities designed to accommodate high-stakes investment presentations and merger acquisition discussions that affected hundreds of millions in capital deployment. The lobby's marble floors and contemporary artwork created an atmosphere of financial sophistication that would have intimidated me profoundly just 6 months earlier, but now served as appropriate backdrop for the professional capabilities I had developed. The elevator ride to the 29th floor provided final moments for centering myself around the comprehensive analysis that represented 4 months of intensive work and the most sophisticated strategic thinking I had ever produced. The presentation materials in my briefcase contained detailed evaluations of 5 restaurant properties, integrated market analysis spanning 6 New England metropolitan areas, and strategic recommendations that would influence acquisition decisions affecting over 300 employees and $45 million in investment capital. Anthony Castellano met me in the Hartford Capital Partners reception area, with encouragement that reflected both professional confidence in my analytical work and personal appreciation for the transformation he had witnessed over our months of collaboration. His presence provided reassurance while reinforcing the significance of this presentation for advancing both the acquisition strategy and my own professional development. Isabella, I want you to know that regardless of today's outcome, your work on this analysis has been exceptional, Anthony said with genuine warmth. The depth and sophistication of your strategic thinking has impressed everyone who has reviewed your findings. Today is simply an opportunity to share insights that could create tremendous value for all parties involved. The conference room where the presentation would take place occupied the building's northeast corner, with floor-to-ceiling windows providing panoramic views of the Connecticut River and surrounding metropolitan area. The mahogany table could accommodate 16 participants, and the integrated presentation technology reflected the sophisticated communication requirements that complex investment decisions demanded. The audience assembling for this presentation represented combined expertise that extended across decades of restaurant industry investment, private equity management, merger and acquisition law, and institutional portfolio management. The 12 individuals taking their seats around the conference table possessed collective experience that had guided billions in investment capital and hundreds of successful business acquisitions throughout their distinguished careers. Patricia Williams, managing partner at Hartford Capital Partners, opened the session with introductions that established both the stakes involved and the expectations for analytical rigor that would guide evaluation of the acquisition proposal. Her background included 15 years in investment banking with Goldman Sachs, specializing in hospitality industry transactions, followed by 8 years managing restaurant-focused private equity investments that had generated superior returns for institutional clients. We have assembled this group because the Castellano Industries expansion proposal represents exactly the kind of strategic acquisition opportunity that creates long-term value through operational excellence and market positioning advantages, Patricia explained to the assembled investors and advisors. Isabella Martinez will present comprehensive analysis that will enable informed decision-making about this $45 million investment opportunity. The introduction that positioned me as the primary analytical expert responsible for strategic recommendations to such a sophisticated audience would have created paralyzing anxiety during my previous professional incarnation. However, the confidence developed through months of challenging analytical work and successful collaboration with executive teams provided foundation for approaching this presentation with focused energy rather than overwhelming nervousness. The presentation began with comprehensive overview of regional dining market trends, demographic patterns, and consumer behavior analysis that established strategic context for understanding why the 5 target properties represented superior acquisition opportunities compared to alternative investment options. Rather than simply presenting financial data, I provided integrated market intelligence that connected economic trends with operational performance and competitive positioning factors. The analysis of demographic shifts revealed growing affluence in target markets, evolving dining preferences that favored upscale establishments with authentic cuisine and sophisticated service, and lifestyle changes that increased frequency of restaurant dining among key customer segments. These trends created expanding market opportunities that favored restaurant groups with operational expertise and financial resources to pursue strategic expansion. The competitive landscape analysis identified market gaps and positioning advantages that the target properties could exploit through strategic management and operational improvements. Rather than acquiring restaurants in saturated markets, Castellano Industries had identified establishments in markets with favorable competitive dynamics and growth potential that could support premium pricing and customer loyalty development. The detailed financial analysis of individual properties demonstrated sophisticated understanding of restaurant economics, seasonal variation patterns, and operational leverage factors that would determine acquisition success. Each property analysis included historical performance evaluation, market position assessment, operational efficiency opportunities, and financial projection models that accounted for integration costs and synergy realization timelines. The presentation of Meridian Brasserie in Boston revealed a sophisticated urban dining establishment whose prime location and established reputation provided foundation for revenue growth through enhanced marketing, operational efficiency improvements, and service expansion that could increase average transaction values and customer visit frequency. The financial projections demonstrated how strategic investments in facility improvements and staff development could generate substantial returns through increased profitability and market share expansion. Coastal Prime in Providence represented different strategic value through its specialized seafood focus, supplier relationships with local fishing operations, and market position as the premier destination for authentic New England coastal cuisine. The acquisition analysis demonstrated how operational improvements and marketing expansion could increase revenue while maintaining the restaurant's distinctive culinary identity and customer loyalty patterns. The Mountain View Grill analysis addressed seasonal variation challenges through comprehensive evaluation of Vermont tourism patterns, weather impact assessments, and operational strategies for maximizing profitability during peak seasons while minimizing losses during slower periods. The strategic recommendations included facility improvements, menu diversification, and marketing approaches that could extend the profitable operating season while building year-round customer base through special events and catering services. Harbor House in Portland required sophisticated understanding of competitive pressures from newer establishments and evolving customer preferences that demanded facility modernization and service enhancement without compromising the restaurant's established market position. The analysis demonstrated how strategic renovations and operational improvements could restore competitive advantage while generating superior returns through increased customer traffic and enhanced profitability. University Tavern in New Haven presented unique analytical challenges due to academic calendar influences and diverse customer segments that required flexible operational approaches and marketing strategies. The acquisition assessment included detailed analysis of student spending patterns, community relationship factors, and operational adjustments that could optimize performance throughout different academic and seasonal cycles. The integrated acquisition strategy presentation demonstrated how combined ownership of these 5 properties would create synergy opportunities through shared marketing, operational best practices exchange, centralized purchasing advantages, and management expertise distribution that could enhance individual property performance while reducing overall operational costs and risk exposure. The financial projections synthesized individual property analyses into comprehensive acquisition model that demonstrated superior investment returns through strategic management, operational improvements, and market expansion initiatives that leveraged Castellano Industries' proven expertise in restaurant development and management excellence. The question and answer session that followed tested every aspect of my analytical depth and strategic understanding as sophisticated investors probed assumptions, challenged projections, and evaluated risk factors that could affect acquisition success. Their inquiries demanded comprehensive responses that demonstrated mastery of restaurant industry dynamics, regional market conditions, and operational integration requirements. Patricia Williams initiated questioning with detailed inquiries about customer retention assumptions and competitive response scenarios that could affect projected revenue growth. Her questions revealed sophisticated understanding of restaurant industry dynamics, and required responses that demonstrated comprehensive market analysis and realistic assessment of competitive threats and mitigation strategies. Isabella, your projections assume customer retention rates that exceed industry averages for restaurant acquisitions, Patricia observed. What specific factors support these assumptions? And how would competitive responses from established market players affect these retention projections? The response required integration of customer survey data, loyalty program analysis, and competitive positioning assessment that demonstrated why each property's established market position and customer relationships would support superior retention rates under improved management and operational enhancement. The analysis included specific examples of successful restaurant acquisitions that had achieved similar retention performance through strategic improvements and customer experience enhancement. Robert Chen, senior portfolio manager with extensive restaurant industry investment experience, challenged the integration timeline assumptions and questioned whether projected synergy realization could be achieved within the proposed 18-month period. His inquiries demanded detailed explanation of integration processes, change management approaches, and operational improvement implementation strategies. The discussion of integration challenges required comprehensive understanding of restaurant operations, staff development requirements, and technology implementation timelines that would enable synergy realization while maintaining operational continuity and customer service quality during transition periods. The response demonstrated sophisticated project management thinking and realistic assessment of integration complexity and resource requirements. The most challenging questions came from Margaret Thompson, Managing Director specializing in hospitality industry risk assessment, whose inquiries focused on regulatory compliance issues, labor relation challenges, and facility maintenance requirements that could affect acquisition costs and operational performance. Her questions tested comprehensive understanding of restaurant industry operational realities and regulatory environments. The discussion of risk factors required detailed explanation of due diligence findings, compliance assessment results, and mitigation strategies for addressing identified challenges while maintaining projected financial performance and investment returns. The analysis demonstrated thorough evaluation of potential problems and comprehensive planning for risk management and operational excellence. The presentation session concluded with unanimous acknowledgement from Hartford Capital Partners and the assembled investment advisors that the analytical work had provided comprehensive foundation for confident acquisition decision-making. Patricia Williams summarized the group consensus with comments that exceeded my most optimistic expectations regarding professional recognition and validation. Isabella, this analysis represents exactly the kind of comprehensive strategic thinking that sophisticated acquisitions require, Patricia announced to the assembled group. Your integration of financial evaluation with operational insights and market intelligence has provided us with confidence that this acquisition strategy will generate superior returns through strategic management and operational excellence. The approval decision that followed included commitment for full financing of the $45 million acquisition strategy, along with additional capital allocation for operational improvements and strategic initiatives that my analysis had recommended for maximizing long-term value creation and competitive advantage development. The recognition extended beyond simple project approval to include invitation for continued involvement in acquisition implementation and ongoing strategic consulting for other Hartford Capital Partners portfolio companies, whose restaurant industry investments could benefit from similar analytical expertise and strategic thinking capabilities. As I gathered my presentation materials and prepared to leave Hartford Capital Partners, I recognized that the previous 3 hours had represented far more than successful project completion or professional validation. The presentation had demonstrated transformation from hesitant accountant to confident strategic analyst, whose capabilities commanded respect from sophisticated business leaders and institutional investors. The ordeal that I had approached with months of preparation and systematic capability development had proven that professional competence creates opportunities for extraordinary achievement regardless of starting circumstances or natural advantages. The woman who had once believed herself incapable of contributing meaningfully to sophisticated business discussions had successfully influenced multi-million-dollar investment decisions through analytical excellence and strategic thinking. The confidence generated by this professional triumph would provide foundation for personal transformation that would ultimately prove my mother's predictions about my romantic limitations as spectacularly incorrect as her assumptions about my professional potential had been. The immediate aftermath of the Hartford Capital Partners presentation brought recognition and opportunities that exceeded every expectation I had maintained regarding professional advancement and career trajectory. The comprehensive analysis that had consumed 4 months of intensive work had not only secured approval for the $45 million acquisition strategy, but it also established my reputation as a strategic consultant whose analytical capabilities could influence major investment decisions throughout New England's hospitality industry. Patricia Williams approached me in the Hartford Capital Partners conference room immediately following the presentation conclusion with an offer that would fundamentally alter my professional circumstances and career possibilities. Her investment firm managed restaurant industry portfolios that required ongoing strategic analysis and acquisition evaluation, creating opportunities for expanded consulting relationships that could provide both substantial income and continued professional development. Isabella, your presentation today demonstrated exactly the analytical sophistication that our restaurant industry investments require, Patricia explained with the directness that characterized successful investment professionals. Hartford Capital Partners would like to engage your services for ongoing strategic analysis of our hospitality portfolio companies. This would involve quarterly performance evaluations, acquisition opportunity assessments, and strategic planning consulting that could significantly expand your professional practice. The consulting contract that Patricia outlined would provide annual compensation that exceeded my current Sterling & Associates salary, while offering flexible scheduling that would enable continued collaboration with Castellano Industries and other restaurant industry clients. The arrangement would establish my practice as an independent strategic consultant specializing in restaurant industry analysis and acquisition evaluation. The financial implications of this consulting opportunity were transformative in ways that extended far beyond increased income to include professional independence and career flexibility that I had never previously imagined possible. The prospect of establishing my own consulting practice represented complete departure from the corporate employment security that had defined my career trajectory while creating possibilities for unlimited professional growth and financial achievement. Anthony Castellano's immediate response to the Hartford Capital Partners approval included expansion of our collaborative relationship to encompass strategic consulting for additional Castellano Industries acquisitions and development projects. The success of the 5-property analysis had demonstrated analytical capabilities that could support their continued expansion throughout New England and potential development into new geographic markets. Isabella, your analytical work has provided us with confidence to pursue acquisition strategies that we had not previously considered feasible, Anthony announced during our post-presentation discussion. Castellano Industries would like to establish an ongoing consulting relationship that could involve evaluation of acquisition opportunities throughout the Northeast region and strategic planning for expansion into metropolitan markets including Boston, Providence, and potentially New York City. The expanded consulting relationship with Castellano Industries would involve annual retainer compensation plus project-based fees that would provide stable income foundation, while enabling pursuit of additional strategic consulting opportunities throughout the restaurant industry. The arrangement offered professional recognition and financial reward that validated the transformation process that had begun with reluctant acceptance of the initial Trattoria Bellecourt assignment. The recognition extended beyond financial compensation to include invitations for participation in restaurant industry conferences, strategic planning sessions, and professional development opportunities that would enhance my expertise while expanding my network of business relationships throughout New England's hospitality community. These opportunities represented continued learning and growth possibilities that could support decades of professional advancement. The immediate practical implications of professional success required significant adjustments to my living arrangements and lifestyle that reflected both increased income and expanded social obligations. The cramped studio apartment that had symbolized my financial limitations would need to be replaced with professional workspace and residential environment appropriate to my new consulting practice and business relationship requirements. The apartment search process that followed provided my first opportunity to apply expanded financial resources to living arrangements that would support both professional requirements and personal comfort. Rather than focusing solely on affordability and basic functionality, I could consider properties that offered space for home office setup, professional meeting areas, and residential amenities that would enhance quality of life while supporting business success. The selection of a 2-bedroom condominium in Hartford's West End neighborhood represented dramatic improvement in both living space and residential environment. The property included dedicated office space with separate entrance for client meetings, updated kitchen facilities suitable for entertaining business associates, and residential amenities that reflected the professional success that had transformed my career prospects and financial circumstances. The condominium purchase process required navigation of mortgage applications, property inspections, and legal documentation that represented my first major financial transaction and ownership responsibility. Rather than feeling overwhelmed by these complexities, I applied the systematic analytical approach that had proven effective for restaurant acquisition analysis to personal financial planning and real estate decision-making. The furnishing and decoration of my new residence provided opportunities for expressing personal style and professional identity that had been suppressed during years of financial constraint and social invisibility. The selection of elegant furnishings, professional artwork, and sophisticated decor created environment that reflected both my cultural appreciation and business success while providing comfortable space for personal relaxation and professional entertaining. The most significant personal transformation involved recognition that professional success had fundamentally altered my social circumstances and relationship possibilities. The confidence that had developed through successful completion of complex analytical challenges extended beyond business contexts, to include social interactions and personal relationships that had previously seemed beyond my capabilities. The restaurant industry connections that had developed through my consulting work provided access to social events, professional gatherings, and networking opportunities that exposed me to sophisticated professionals whose lifestyle and relationship patterns represented possibilities I had never previously considered accessible to someone with my background and personal characteristics. The first indication of expanded social possibilities occurred during a restaurant industry networking event hosted by the Connecticut Restaurant Association, where my analytical expertise and professional achievements created immediate credibility and social recognition among industry professionals, whose respect and friendship had previously seemed unattainable due to my limited social confidence and professional visibility. The networking event brought introductions to restaurant owners, hospitality industry executives, and culinary professionals whose business success and social sophistication had historically intimidated me into withdrawal and invisibility. However, the professional competence I had demonstrated through strategic consulting work provided foundation for confident participation in sophisticated business discussions and social interactions. Linda Morrison's introduction of me to restaurant industry colleagues as the strategic analyst whose work enabled our most successful acquisition strategy created immediate recognition and respect that facilitated natural conversation and relationship development with professionals whose expertise and social confidence had previously seemed beyond my capacity for meaningful interaction. The evening progressed with multiple conversations that revealed genuine interest in my analytical approach to restaurant evaluation and strategic planning. Rather than experiencing the social anxiety and self-consciousness that had characterized my previous attempts at professional networking, I found myself energized by discussions of business strategy and industry trends that connected directly to my area of expertise and professional experience. The most significant interaction of the evening occurred during conversation with Michael Romano, a restaurant development consultant whose work involved site selection and market analysis for restaurant expansion projects throughout New England. His immediate appreciation for my analytical approach and strategic thinking created foundation for professional collaboration that would extend beyond casual networking to include potential business partnership opportunities. Isabella, your systematic approach to restaurant acquisition analysis addresses exactly the kind of strategic challenges that our expansion clients encounter, Michael explained during our extended conversation. The integration of financial evaluation with operational assessment and market analysis provides comprehensive foundation for confident investment decision-making that could benefit several of our current development projects. The potential collaboration with Michael Romano would involve application of my analytical expertise to restaurant development projects that required site evaluation, market analysis, and financial feasibility assessment for establishing new restaurant properties in competitive metropolitan markets. The partnership opportunity would expand my consulting practice while providing access to development projects that could generate substantial professional fees and continued learning opportunities. The restaurant industry networking event concluded with multiple business cards exchanged, several preliminary discussions of potential consulting opportunities, and invitations to additional professional events that would expand my industry relationships and business development possibilities. The transformation from invisible accountant to sought-after strategic consultant had created social confidence and professional recognition that extended far beyond my most optimistic expectations. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.